I bought a new guitar last week that I'm really excited about, even though I wasn't at all planning to get a new guitar actually. But this one popped up for sale in a local Facebook group, so I decided to buy it because these don't appear in Poland for sale too often. So it's here and I'm really excited to tell you about it. So what I bought is this vintage Teisco guitar, and at first I had no idea what exact model this is. So as I always do, I started digging into the internet for some information about it. So I started doing research about the brand, and it isn't really easy to find all the information about these guitars. The original company is long gone and there are no records kept of all the guitars they made. A lot of models have several versions. There were also a few model numbers that were reused later for different shaped guitars. So that leads to a lot of confusion when you're trying to get to know what your guitar is and when it was made. But digging really deep, I found this interesting website that collects data on different Japanese vintage guitars, including Teisco guitars. So there I found a list of all, or maybe not all, Teisco guitar models, and I browsed through all of them looking at pictures, and I found one looking really similar to the one that I've got, and it's a YG-6 model. It took me an hour or two of research to find the exact model and find this website, so I linked this website for you in the description box so you can check it out without having to go through all the pages in Google. There are lots of interesting information about Japanese vintage guitars there, so maybe you would be interested. But when I wanted to learn more about this exact model, I didn't really get a lot of information. I found maybe 2 old reverb listings only saying things like old Japanese bizarre guitar from the 60s, and that's all the information provided. I wish that there was more information about it, but on the other hand, it makes these guitars more intriguing and unique. Also, digging that deep into the brand and into those quirky Japanese guitars makes me want to buy more weird Japanese guitars from the 60s. I also found this weird chart on the other website, from which, based on the badge, the headstock and the pickguard, I can assume that my Teisco was made sometime in the late 60s. I also did a little bit of research about the brand and its history in itself. So Teisco started life as a partnership between Atsuro Kaneko, a Hawaiian and Spanish guitarist, and an electrical engineer, Doryu Matsuda. The company went through a couple of different names and they finally settled for Teisco in 1964. Initially, their products were only sold domestically. They started making lap steels in the 40s, and by the end of 50s they were making solid body electric guitars and archtops. In the 60s, the brokers began to import their guitars to the United States and to the UK. These guitars were often rebranded before being sold in music stores. These new brands included Teisco Del Rey, Kai or Silvertone. Del Rey is of course the Spanish term for the king, and it was used because it was then widely believed that the Spanish names would make the product more appealing and the meaning would suggest a higher quality. The appeal of these guitars was of course the price. You could buy the Teisco guitar for up to $150, while a new Fender Strat costed about $200. As the 60s progressed, so did the uniqueness of Teisco guitars. So right now when you hear Teisco guitar, you probably think a weird, quirky Japanese guitar from the 60s with a lot of pickups and a wide array of switches, knobs, and other controls. Teisco was later bought by Kawai Musical Instruments Manufacturing Company in 1967, and the guitars were discontinued in 1969. But in 2018, a Singapore company acquired the rights to the name, and they started making guitar pedals under this name. And over the years, Teisco became a really sought after brand in the vintage guitar market. And while reading about these guitars, I realized how many famous guitar players played a Teisco guitar at some point in their career. The list includes Eddie Van Halen, whose first guitar was a Teisco guitar, and he also later played a Teisco Spectrum 5. Next we have Josh Homme with Teisco V2, Mark Knopfler, Bob Dylan, Dan Auerbach or Daniel Jones. The list goes on, and I wasn't actually aware of how many guitar players used these instruments. The one that I bought is a Teisco YG-6 model. As I said before, I don't have much information about it, so if you know anything, just let me know in the comments. It's got a shape that reminds me a bit about a Strat. It comes in a sunburst color and has a silver anodized pickguard with stripes. It's equipped with 3 pickups, 4 switches and 2 knobs. It's giving real vintage vibes both from its look and its sound. But for a guitar coming from the 60s, it's preserved in a very good condition. By now you're probably very curious about how it sounds, so let's get to the playing part. Bye.